Hi, hello. I know it's been a long time. I recently graduated, Bachelor's of Science, 4.0 GPA. So your girl got all straight A's in college, or at least in university. In community college, I flunked the class. But I am here to tell you guys that for my senior project, I created trading cards? Question mark? Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Summer of 2025, as you know, I went to Japan for 20 days by myself. I was told by that winter break that we should have that winter break prior to that summer, that we should have like an idea of what we're doing for our senior project because my professor wanted us to turn in our senior research thesis around the summertime. And also I wanted to hit that deadline first because there was an opportunity to get paid to do my research as I'm working on it. Spoiler alert, I did not do that because little did I know, limited spots, my classmate submitted his proposal before me and didn't even get it. I'm so mad about that, but I digress. So summertime, I go to Japan, and I knew for my thesis because I went to an HBCU. I wanted to do something relating to African American culture, mainly because I thought it would give me a higher spot to actually get some money. Had my proposal had been submitted, I feel like I would have gotten that money, that research money. But I'm in Japan. And I'm going through stores like Big Camera, and I see this. If you don't know, I love bugs. Like, I've always loved bugs, insects, and stuff growing up. Things with more than 8 legs or anything with less than 8 legs. I love it. From worms to ants to millipedes and centipedes, anything but arachnids, I love. And I don't know. Originally, I didn't think about what I wanted to do for a senior thesis other than like doing something African American related, because I haven't thought about entomology in years. Actually, I started thinking about that literally that year, 2025, because I met someone and they were super cool. And they were talking about things that they like. And I don't know how we got into the conversation, but I was talking about bugs and like geeking out about that. And yeah, it was just something I always loved. Shows like Monster Bug Wars, absolutely love it. And watching tier lists about insects and stuff is pretty cool, if I say so myself. So yeah, I see this game and I wanted to do something like this, because even though I like this game, it's not a good game. I love the graphics and everything, but it's not a good game. I think the idea of the game is awesome, but the execution could have been better. And I wanted to be that solution to make it better. Japan also has like trading cards. So the Beetle trading cards. So they had a actual rock, paper, scissors mechanic, rock, actual paper, and scissors for their Beetles. But I didn't really think about that too much because my original thesis was going to be a video game. I wanted to make an RPG video game similar to like Fire Emblem, but more into like Mario Luigi, where it's like a duo system. So I had this idea that I was going to 3D model 3 different insects and all this other stuff. But I needed to choose where my setting was going to take place. Again, since I wanted to tie to Black American history, I did some research and I ended up with the Great Dismal Swamp, because it's in between North Carolina and Virginia, and my family actually has land in North Carolina, but that doesn't affect like why I chose that place specifically. But it's kind of cool that it ties into my own family history and family tree in some way. But I ended up picking that place because of the maroon people that used to be there and all this other stuff. So that's what I wanted. I wanted the swamp. So I picked the swamp. Then I started researching bugs that reside in both Virginia and North Carolina that also would reside somewhere in the swamp. So I have a whole list of insects. By the way, did not use AI for any of this shit. I did my own research. I can write myself. I may not articulate myself very well, and I do have a lot of run-ons, as you can see with this video. But like, I didn't use AI to help me with any of this shit. Would it made it faster? Probably, but like, it's personal to me, and like, I have more of a deeper connection and understanding because I put in the research myself. So yeah. Another thing I wanted to tie into it was like entomologists, specifically if there were any black entomologists. Entomologists being the scientists who study insects. At the time, there were 4. Now it's like maybe six black entomologists, but I didn't choose the other 2, but I chose 4. So I picked the 4 oldest black entomologists. They're all passed away by now, but I also want to incorporate that somehow. Didn't know how I'm going to incorporate it in the video game, but yeah. So I started 3D modeling my first insect, which was the candy stripe leafhopper. It is the mascot of my title, my game, and also like I made a little sticker of it. Look at the sticker. Like, so cute, so cute. This is the title wall that I made. I might want to redo the bottom part, but this is the title wall. Also, as you can see, it doesn't say belonging. Originally, the game was going to be called Bugs and Belonging with a G at the end. But I guess it really was a happy little accident because when I was going through like different iterations of my logo, which I struggled with, one of the logos had a typo in it. So I forgot to put the G in belonging. And my professor, who is a Southern Black, grew up in the South. I'm a Northern Black, by the way. My family's from the North, if you can't tell. So I learned a lot about Black American culture, especially Southern Black American culture, by being in a Southern Black HBCU. I love that for me because now the game is called Bugs and Belongin with an apostrophe at the end of it. It's so cool and quirky. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to sound facetious, but I am actually super excited and super happy. I'm not sure if that's part of AAVE or not, but my professor said that's usually how Black folks say belonging in the South. Is belonging. So a little cool. Part of my display, I do have the map of the Great Dismal Swamp. I had it printed out on vinyl. So here you can see Virginia, North Carolina, and the blue area is actually where the swamp is. I wanted to make that little map because, again, it's a very significant part of like my whole thing. So I don't actually start working on my senior thesis until the fall winter break of 2025. Other than the research that I put in, which was like, oh my God, I don't even remember how many pages that was. I put in pages of that research and then not think about it that much. But it was the winter of 2025 where I actually started doing a little bit more. I started 3D modeling the candy stripe leafhopper and stuff like that. that's when I solidified the 3 insects that I wanted to, at the time, 3D model. And their roles, because again, I wanted to keep the rock paper scissors mechanic because I love games like Fire Emblem. Originally the game was supposed to be a turn-based tactical RPG. That didn't happen, but what did come from that is like the 3 insects I ended up choosing embodied the rock paper scissors mechanic, which is called rotters, which are my decomposers, my prey, which are usually my herbivores, prey, herbivores, and then my carnivores, which were my predators. So that was exciting. I have my rock paper scissors mechanic. My rotters, usually beetles and stuff, they tend to have like a higher defense, with the exception of like worms and stuff like that, but that's like for the future. But for this specific thing, my 3 insects I chose was the candy striped leafhopper, the Big Dipper firefly as my predator, and the eastern Hercules beetle as my rotter of choice. I almost didn't want to choose a beetle just because I didn't want it to be too similar to like what I was inspired by, but honestly it's not that, because the Japanese trading card game is specifically just beetles, and so was this game that I got in Japan was specifically just beetles, no other insects. So I think I was fine on that end. Well, let's flash forward. I'm working on this project, and I thought I was going to get the help that I wanted to receive, because even though I'm a jack of most trades, I don't like coding and I don't know how to code. I took formal logic, so I understand the if then statements and stuff like that. I accidentally took formal logic in community college. I heard no numbers, let me take that class. Oh my god. But it does help me understand like programming talk and stuff like that. I just personally never got a chance to actually do any of that. It's not hard. It's something I can learn while being in college. There's plenty of videos. So eventually, that's something I might do, or just end up outsourcing to someone else, because I don't want to do that. But it's gotten to the point where I can't do the game that I wanted to do. I can't do it. I can't 3D model all 3 insects and do the environment and figure out the coding and all this stuff and the program that I wanted it in. Did I want it in Houdini? Do I want it in Unity? Or did I want it in Unreal? The thing I wanted to make, it seemed like an Unreal thing, but I ended up doing my project in Unity. But it was no longer a video game. It is now a trading card game, which is perfect because it still keeps the rock, paper, scissors mechanic. Again, I wanted it to be duo. So you'll have like a deck of cards, but the insects acts like partners to each other rather than like a team in a way. And I didn't want the battle mechanic like Pokemon, where like one Pokemon comes out, and well, I play Pokemon Go, so I'm basing this off of Pokemon Go. Well, one Pokemon comes out, you battle Pokemon 1v1, and then if one of them dies, you put out your other Pokemon. I grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards. My brother made me play Yu-Gi-Oh cards, so the deck building system of Yu-Gi-Oh comes from that, but I didn't want to do that. So I ended up having to learn about trading card design. So as a designer, I learned about like the principles and elements of design. But trading cards are something I never thought about for design purposes. Like with games like Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh, they don't follow modern design principles and rules because they were one of the first ones. So like with Yu-Gi-Oh, if you ever looked at a Yu-Gi-Oh card, giant long ass description of what that card does. Are you gonna read that description every time you want to put down that card? No, you build your deck around those descriptions and choosing the cards that you want in your deck, and then you remember those. So yeah, I didn't want to have like a bunch of list of rules and stuff like that. What ended up happening is like my trading card design was based around Pokemon and One Piece, surprisingly enough. One Piece UI, the UI of One Piece, the way that they do like their team, because I don't play One Piece. I met someone at school, one of my underclassmen, and he had a One Piece card, very nice card, and I was using that card as reference. I like the team, the color, the UI color of the name and the border and everything, it all coincides, and obviously it makes sense. So someone who never played One Piece but knows something about TCG, I can understand it. Like, I can understand, like, oh, this color and this color are the same, therefore they go together. Like, it's not hard. It wasn't hard. And I love that. I love that. So I'm going to show you my Eastern Hercules Beetle. This is my Beetle trading card. And you can see the name on the bottom is very inspired by One Piece, the way that they did their UI. It's the only UI that allows me to fit the name of the insect on there as well as their scientific name. I love that for me. This card specifically is kind of dark, but yeah, what I ended up creating was like I had to do my own illustrations because again, this is a no AI zone, so I had to create my own illustrations. I had to come up with symbols to represent like the three rock paper scissors mechanic of the insects and like the background and like their attack and their shield and all this other stuff. This is based off of African Adinkra symbols. I chose Adinkra symbols specifically, even though like the tribe that use Adinkra symbols is West Africa. I got lucky because my setting is in the Great Dismal Swamp. And if you know anything, the boat dropped off a lot of Africans in that area and they picked them up from where? The western part of Africa. So it syncs up. So I'm not pulling shit out of my ass just because like it's black and African relating. Like these symbols actually mean shit. Like they actually do mean stuff. I'll just put up my brand guidelines up here so that you guys can actually see what these things mean. One of my biggest regrets for not creating, had I had time and had I knew I was making a trading card game from the very start, I would have done like a card anatomy thingy, like a little, like it would have like the card here and then like the different stats and symbols and all that other stuff and what they mean next to it. Didn't have time for that because again, I did the trading card thing super last minute. That's only because I did not have help that I thought I was gonna have originally, and it took me way too long to do the logo. This logo took way too long to do, and it's still not my favorite thing in the world, but I had to rework the candy stripe Leafhopper because originally I made the legs a little too stumpy and they wanted it a little bit more realistic looking. Behind me is the actual back of the trading card, like big back if you ever seen it. Like this is super huge. I needed a big poster of the back of the trading card because not only was I making trading cards at this point, there were going to be AR trading cards. Yeah, boom. AR meaning augmented reality. I grew up playing my Nintendo. I love my 3DS. And one of the things I wish was more popularized, but freaking Amiibos got that spotlight instead, were AR cards. I freaking loved the AR cards. I played that damn fishing game on the 3DS way too long. I loved it so much. You have no idea how much I missed that. I wanted to do that with the trading cards. What ended up happening was like, I ended up creating the candy stripe Leafhopper, and it shows up on the back of the trading card. Had I had time, because Unity, I ended up doing this in Unity, by the way. Unity was acting really weird, and like trying to find like apps or programs that allow me to do AR was hard, especially things that were free. Unity happens to be free, at least for what I needed it to do, probably under my student thing, but I ended up doing it. Unfortunately, I only did it for Android because I have an Android, but yeah, iPhone users, you guys are shit out of luck. You guys cannot scan my trading card back and see the cool shit that was happening, which wasn't that cool. But again, I had to remember, I did all of this shit by myself. I designed trading cards by myself. I had to research. Like I'm not like, I'm an artist that like to put in a lot of research and is very intentional in anything I design, which is why I love designing more than I like creating art, because art is subjective while design is objective. If your design doesn't work, it doesn't work. Anyways, did all of that by myself. Not only that, I 3D modeled by myself, and I did not retypologize my insects, so it had a lot of issues that I did get help for. I got help from my classmate who put the bone rigs in my insect because he was making a bug game as well. Yeah, that ended up happening. Originally it wasn't supposed to be bugs, but then it ended up being bugs. He was very inspired by me without being conscious that he was inspired by me. I'm not going to say he ripped me off because it's a different genre, but you know, considering I have a candy stripe Leafhopper and he ended up doing like a tree hopper, and that's like late in the game too, by the way. That was funny. I thought it was funny. I don't hold it against him. He helped me with the rigging and stuff because I did not want to do that. I was being lazy and I didn't want to do it. But I did do slight animation. So I had like the Leafhopper's head bobbing up and down, having the little booty wiggle. Did not rig those wings, by the way. And I did not animate those wings. Maybe in the future I will, but not today, because trying to get texture. I 3D modeled this on Nomad Sculpt, by the way, an iPad app, and trying to get my textures imported into Blender, I don't know why. It was just having issues. It was having issues, and then I was having even more issues putting it into Unity. I remember it was 4 in the freaking morning of me just working on that, just working on putting it into Unity that day, and it was like almost close to like showtime actually when that happened. Crazy work. I'm gonna go ahead and read my thesis statement. Bugs and Belongin is an interactive project that reimagines environmental education through game design, cultural storytelling, and ecological exploration. Centered on a trading card game system, the project invites players to collect, study, and engage with insects, not as objects of fear, but as essential participants in both ecological systems and cultural narratives. This is important because part of my research was that I found this article written by, I did make sure this was written by a Black man, because if you're going to talk about fears, especially fears within POC communities, I would hope you're a person of color. But I forgot the name of the article, but it talks about the correlation between like people's fears and it's not just the color of their skin, but it happens to be the color of their skin because we live in America and we displace a lot of POC people. So those people who tend to live in like underdeveloped areas tend to be people of color and stuff like that. So it's mainly me targeting like Black people's fears of like insects such as roaches, because roaches remind them of fucking poverty and dirtiness and health and all that other stuff. Like, it's very justified. And also, fear is one of those emotions that I've researched and I want to do even more research on because I love fear. I love fear. I love fear objectively because it's something I can understand and comprehend. It's something a little bit more objective than subjective, like let's say happiness. Happiness, I can't wrap my head around it. I cannot visualize it. I cannot put it down on paper, but fear, yes, I can. I digress. Insects play a vital role in sustaining biodiversity, yet they are often misunderstood or rejected to fear and cultural stigma. These perceptions can be especially complex within communities where historical relationships to the land and environment have been shaped by survival, displacement, and limited access to ecological education. Yes. At the same time, the contributions of Black entomologists remained underrepresented in both academic and public spaces. So yes, I did depict the 4 Black entomologists, and I vectorized their illustrations, so I did trace their images and vectorize them myself. Vectorizing them as in like, I'm in Adobe Fresco drawing this, and then I put it into Illustrator. Again, no use of AI, but I did trace their image and their likeness because I wasn't going to stylize them. I wanted to capture their actual likeness. So laser cut them, and I painted them with acrylic paint that I had. And the colors of my brand. Drawing inspiration from the Great Dismal Swamp, a historic refuge for maroon communities, and the Japanese arcade-based trading card game, the Mushing King, King of the Beatles. That's the trading card game I'm thinking of. This project bridges cross-cultural approaches to insect and play. In admiration. In contrast, insects in many, oh my god, I had a typo. In many American contexts, particularly within within the great African American diaspora, are more often linked to discomfort or avoidance. Bugs and Belongin responds to this contrast by reimagining what it means to interact with insects through culturally grounded lens. Each card represents a living archive, ecological behavior, cultural symbolism, and inherited knowledge encoded into a playable form. That is the Adinkra symbols I am talking about, by the way. The game becomes a tool of learning, but also a gateway into a larger narrative. I'm not going to read the rest of this, but eventually I want to do a video game. It's going to be titled Bugs and Belongin, Insect Bondin'. Sorry, I had a trading card in the back of it. But yeah, I also designed this by myself. Yes, I made it based off of the Nintendo Switch because I'm a Nintendo girl. And this is the inside of it. There's the actual Japanese game that I picked up, by the way. The back of it says, escaped slaves that have been hiding out in the Great Dismal Swamp had already assimilated to the customs of the land and the wildlife there. As Union troops encroached upon the land from the north side, the people must build their insect team as they push to find absolute freedom by finding the maroon community. But yeah, kind of controversial for me to depict the Unions. Again, I'm a Northern Black. I get it. It's controversial for me to depict Union troops as the bad guys in this sense, but that's kind of what they were, because the maroon people that were living in the Great Dismal Swamp didn't want to be a part of the war. They didn't want to fight for the war. They didn't want to fight in that war. So yeah, they ended up leaving the swamp. Which is why my video game poster tagline is a land that freed them, a swarm that protects them. Bugs and Belongin. I'll continue this another time and talking about it and yapping about it, but yeah, that was my project. Over here, real quick, is the purple pitcher plant that talks about the 4 entomologists and a little bit more information about like the importance of why I made this and everything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah.